The grand conclave of Zereth Prime rose like a carved mountain of light, its living stone breathing faint luminescence into the void-dark chamber. Gravity folded inward toward a circular dais where the most powerful voices in the galaxy convened. Delegates floated, perched, or anchored themselves according to biology and status. Every surface carried quiet authority, shaped by an empire that had ruled star systems longer than most species remembered having names. When the harmonic chime faded, High Executor Veilcor emerged from the upper halo. His form was tall, faceted, and immaculately still, as though motion itself waited for permission. The Valorian Empire listened when he spoke. It always had. 40 millennia of conquest had trained the galaxy to recognize that tone, final, ceremonial, irreversible. Let the record show, Veilcor intoned, that the Terran Union has exhausted all tolerance extended by Imperial grace. A ripple of interest passed through the assembly. Humanity. The upstart civilization from a yellow star, loud in trade councils, stubborn in negotiations, irritatingly independent. No one had expected them to last long enough to become a problem. Veilcor continued, each word measured. Unauthorized transit corridors. Resource denial within annexed regions. Refusal to submit planetary audits. These actions constitute destabilization. Therefore, by mandate of the throne, the Valorian Empire declares a state of total war against the Terran Union. Silence followed. Not reverent silence, but anticipatory silence. This was the moment lesser species usually broke. Please follow declarations like this. Concessions. Tears sometimes. The Empire understood ritual fear. At the human delegation platform, Ambassador Elias Rowan stood alone. He did not plead. He did not stiffen. He did not reach for a translator implant or signal aids. He laughed. It was not loud. It was not mocking. It slipped out of him like an involuntary reflex, warm and unmistakably genuine. A sound entirely out of place among ancient stone and calibrated menace. Every eye turned. Security lattices brightened. Several delegates recoiled as if struck. Veilcor's facets shifted, a rare sign of irritation. Explain your reaction, human, he said. Rowan pressed his fingers briefly against his mouth, attempting and failing to contain himself. I'm sorry, he said, breath still uneven. I really am. It's just. He exhaled again, shaking his head. I didn't expect that today. You were summoned to hear judgment, Veilcor replied. Not to perform. Rowan nodded, composed himself, and reached into the inner pocket of his jacket. The movement triggered a dozen threat algorithms. He withdrew a folded object and held it up between two fingers. Paper. A murmur spread, confused and faintly disturbed. Physical media was a novelty bordering on absurdity. Rowan unfolded it with deliberate care and glanced down. Let me see, he said lightly. Ah. Yes. That tracks. Veilcor's voice cooled. State your point. Rowan turned the sheet outward. From across the chamber, the bold header was visible, printed in dark ink across pale fibers. He didn't bother translating it. Back home, Rowan said. This arrived this morning. He looked up, meeting the High Executor's gaze. You'll forgive me if I seem underwhelmed. You're not even the main story. A sharp intake echoed from somewhere among the delegates. Veilcor stepped forward, energy fields humming. You stand before the Empire at the hour of its wrath, he said. You will show appropriate regard. Rowan lowered the paper and folded it once more. With respect, he replied, calm returning fully now. You misunderstand what this is. And what is it? Veilcor demanded. A scheduling conflict, Rowan said. He gestured vaguely, encompassing the chamber, the fleets waiting beyond it, the threat implicit in every imperial decree. You've declared war like it's a singular event. For us, it's a category. That landed harder than the laughter. Veilcor narrowed his gaze. Humanity possesses no standing force capable of opposing the Empire. Rowan smiled, not arrogantly, but with the weary familiarity of someone correcting a repeated error. We don't have one force, he said. We have many. Public, private, contractual, automated, redundant. Some of them don't even know they're military until they are. This bravado will not save your worlds, Veilcore said. Rowan shrugged. It isn't bravado. It's context. He stepped closer to the edge of the platform, unafraid of the armed constructs that tracked him. You see war as a climax. We see it as weather. Sometimes it's bad. Sometimes it passes. We plan accordingly. The chamber felt different now. Less theatrical. More uncertain. Veilcore straightened. You will regret this flippancy. Rowan inclined his head. Possibly, he said. But not today. He turned, already signaling his exit. If you're serious about this, he added over his shoulder, you should probably start now. We did. The gates parted. The human ambassador walked out without haste. Veilcore remained motionless long after the gates sealed. Data sigils flared as advisors whispered projections that refused alignment. Human logistics curves bent strangely. Mobilization timestamps predated the declaration. Panic metrics hovered near zero. Across the chamber, delegates exchanged uneasy signals. Independent feeds showed markets adjusting, not collapsing. Transit lanes rerouted smoothly. No emergency broadcasts. No speeches rallying fear. Veilcore raised one bladed hand. Increase observation, he ordered. I want full visibility of Sol Sector activity. A subordinate hesitated. They appear to have already accounted for us. That word lingered. Far beyond Zereth Prime, engines spun up on schedules written months earlier. No ceremonies marked the moment. Humanity simply continued its day. Somewhere on Earth, the next edition was already printing. History would later mark this hour as the Empire's first miscalculation. Not because fleets failed, but because assumptions did. Humanity did not seek dominance. It sought continuity. The galaxy had announced an ending. Humans, unbothered, had already planned for what came after, with ledgers balanced, factories warm, and tomorrow firmly scheduled. War had arrived, punctual, expected, and profoundly underestimated by those who declared it. The room assigned to Ambassador Elias Rowan was not a cell, though it was clearly designed to remind occupants that freedom was conditional. The walls shimmered with adaptive alloy, adjusting hue and texture in response to biometric readings. A single seat grew from the floor when he entered, shaped for a body that was not his. Rowan remained standing. 3 figures observed him from behind a translucent partition. One was Valorian. The others belonged to species whose names humanity had translated but never learned to pronounce comfortably. They spoke in low frequencies, data flowing between them faster than sound. Subject shows no elevated stress markers, said the smaller of the 3. Heart rate steady. Cortisol minimal. Impossible, replied the Valorian analyst. They have just been declared enemy primus. Rowan cleared his throat. If this is an interrogation, you should probably include me. The partition dimmed. High Executor Veilcore stepped into the room, flanked by 2 sentinels whose weapons hummed softly. His presence compressed the space, not physically, but psychologically. Empires learned how to do that. You will explain, Veilcore said, why your species treats annihilation as inconvenience. Rowan considered him for a moment. You're asking the wrong question. Veilcore's facets sharpened. Then correct it. Ask why we don't treat survival as sacred, Rowan said. That's the difference. Veilcore gestured, and a projection flared between them, Earth, rotating slowly, wrapped in a mesh of historical data. Conflicts blinked across its surface like scars. You have waged war against yourselves since preorbital eras, Veilcore said. I see fragmentation, inefficiency, waste. You see practice, Rowan replied. The projection shifted. Centuries accelerated. Borders redrew themselves, collapsed, reformed. Technologies leapt forward in bursts tied directly to crisis. Rowan spoke without looking. We didn't evolve on a stable world. Climate swings, resource competition, predators each other. Cooperation kept us alive. So did conflict. We learned early that peace isn't permanent. It's negotiated daily. Veilcore folded his arms. Yet you have no unified war command comparable to the Empire's. No, Rowan agreed. We have redundancy. Another display appeared. Shipyards scattered across dozens of systems. Some carried corporate insignia. Others none at all. Those are civilian, Veilcore said. They're insured, Rowan replied. Which means they're replaceable. Veilcore turned slowly. You assign expendability to lives? We assign it to hardware, Rowan said. Lives get options. That's the point. A third projection opened: logistics chains, resource flows, manufacturing curves that rose and fell like tides rather than spikes. You mobilize without declaration, Veilcore said. We mobilize without panic, Rowan corrected. Your wars are events. Ours are environments. Veilcore's gaze hardened. The Empire commits fully or not at all. That's a weakness, Rowan said calmly. You gamble everything every time. We hedge. Silence stretched. The sentinels remained motionless, but their targeting arrays flickered as if uncertain what to prioritize. Veilcore dismissed the projections with a sharp gesture. Your confidence presumes endurance. Rowan finally sat, crossing his ankles. It's not confidence. It's accounting. He leaned forward slightly. You believe war ends civilizations. For us, it ends eras. Then something else starts. Sometimes better. Sometimes worse. Always different. Veilcore studied him. Your history suggests chaos. Our history suggests adaptation, Rowan said. We don't expect systems to last. We build them to fail without killing us. A chime interrupted them. One of the analysts spoke, voice tight. Executor, border engagement report. Veilcore did not turn away from Rowan. Proceed. Initial strike met automated response. No command lag detected. Civilian assets already evacuated. Industrial output unaffected. Rowan winced sympathetically. You hit a logistics hub, didn't you? Veilcore's eyes flicked briefly toward the analyst. Yes. That facility finished its purpose last quarter, Rowan said. It's been decommissioned for months. You allowed it to remain operational, Veilcore said. We allowed it to look operational, Rowan replied. The analyst hesitated. Secondary data indicates human markets show negligible reaction. Veilcore's control slipped for a fraction of a second. Negligible? Rowan smiled faintly. If anything, shipbuilding stocks are up. The room felt colder. Veilcore dismissed the analysts with a gesture. When they were gone, he spoke more quietly. You baited us. No, Rowan said. You followed a pattern. Veilcore's voice dropped. You think this makes you untouchable. I think it makes us hard to exhaust, Rowan said. There's a difference. He stood again, straightening his jacket. You'll keep escalating until you realize the cost isn't in ships. It's in attention. Every cycle you spend chasing us is one you're not controlling someone else. Veilcore's jaw tightened. We have ruled unchallenged. You ruled unopposed, Rowan said. Those aren't the same. Another chime. This time, the analyst did not wait for permission. Executor, multiple client systems requesting clarification of Imperial protection guarantees. Rowan tilted his head. That didn't take long. Veilcore turned away, anger carefully contained. You will remain here. Rowan nodded. Of course. As the sentinels escorted him out, Rowan glanced back once. For what it's worth, he said. We didn't come looking for this. Veilcore did not respond. In the observation wing overlooking the chamber, delegates argued in hushed tones. Some replayed Rowan's words. Others examined the data streams they no longer trusted. War, it seemed, had arrived without the usual symptoms. On Earth, no emergency sirens sounded. Transit lanes adjusted. Factories retooled between shifts. News anchors reported developments between weather updates and sports results. Across the Valorian frontier, another strike force launched. This time, they found human fleets waiting, not massed, not glorious, but numerous, modular, and already moving on to the next task. Veilcor stood alone in the darkened chamber, watching projections refuse to behave. Humanity had not challenged the Empire's strength. It had challenged its assumptions. For the first time in his long command, Veilcor considered a possibility that had never appeared in Imperial doctrine. The Valorian First Armada translated into the Kestrel Reach with ceremonial precision. 40 capital vessels emerged in perfect formation, hulls gleaming, banners projected in hard light across the void. This was how the Empire announced inevitability. This was how wars were supposed to begin. No one answered the broadcast challenge. Admiral Threxvier watched the empty tactical sphere with growing irritation. "Scan again," he ordered. "System saturation confirmed," an officer replied. "No primary fleets detected. No command signatures." Threxvier allowed himself a thin smile. "They flee." Then space fractured. Thousands of contacts appeared at once, not from hyperspace, but from everywhere: asteroid shadows, sensor blind spots, debris fields long catalogued as inert. Small vessels, angular and unadorned, surged forward in loose clusters that defied conventional formation logic. "Classify targets," Threxvier snapped. "Unable to lock consistent profiles," came the answer. "Hull configurations vary. Power outputs irregular." The first volley struck before the Empire adjusted. Not heavy fire. Not elegant beams. Kinetic swarms, accelerated debris, autonomous strike pods that detonated against shields with brute persistence. Valorian defenses held, but the impact rippled across the formation, breaking symmetry. "Return fire," Threxvier commanded. The Armada responded with disciplined force. Blue lances carved through the nearest attackers, vaporizing dozens instantly. The human vessels did not retreat. More replaced them, threading through the gaps left by their predecessors, colliding deliberately with shield nodes, forcing constant recalibration. "Enemy casualties are extreme," an officer reported. "Yes," Threxvier said. "And meaningless." That was when the logistics alarms began. "Executor level alert," another officer said, voice tightening. "Supply chain disruption detected across 3 sectors." Threxvier frowned. "We are in battle." "Not here," the officer replied. "Elsewhere." Data flooded in. Fuel convoys rerouted by false beacons. Repair yards seized by labor strikes that had begun days earlier. Client worlds suspending tribute shipments, citing market instability. Threxvier stared at the expanding web of interference. "This is not fleet engagement," he said. "No," his aide agreed. "It is economic pressure." Back in the Reach, the battle continued without crescendo. Human craft cycled in and out, damaged units peeling away while replacements slid into their place. No attempt at decisive breakthrough. No heroic push. Just attrition applied with unnerving patience. "They are probing," Threxvier muttered. "They are measuring," the aide corrected. "And adjusting." A human transmission cut through the static, unencrypted and almost casual. "Valorian First Armada, this is Terran Logistics Command. You're operating inside a throughput corridor. Please vacate or expect continued interference." Threxvier snarled. "You issue warnings in the middle of combat?" "Efficiency," the voice replied. "We dislike waste." The channel closed. Minutes later, a Valorian cruiser lost propulsion. Not from damage, but from fuel starvation. Its reserves had been rerouted by an automated protocol that no longer recognized Imperial authority. 2 more ships reported similar failures. "Withdraw," Threxvier ordered. "Reform perimeter." The Armada complied, pulling back under covering fire. The human vessels did not pursue. They dispersed, fading back into the cluttered system like insects returning to a hive. Across the Empire, the pattern repeated. Every strike met resistance that cost human ships but cost the Empire stability. Insurance algorithms flagged losses and paid out within hours. Manufacturing queues filled automatically. Crews rotated without ceremony. No parades. No speeches. On Valorian core worlds, news feeds struggled. Citizens had never seen war without clear progress indicators. There were no conquered systems to display, no surrender footage to broadcast. Only reports of delayed shipments, rising prices, unexplained shortages. "Why is this taking so long?" a senator demanded during an emergency session. "Because they are not trying to win battles," an advisor answered. "They are trying to outlast attention." In the observation chamber on Zerith Prime, High Executive Veilcor watched the latest summaries compile. Losses remained acceptable. Territory largely unchanged. Yet unrest metrics climbed steadily. "They refused to commit," Veilcor said. "They refused to concentrate," replied the strategist beside him. "We cannot strike what refuses to be important." Another alert chimed. "Client system killer suspending imperial tariffs pending conflict resolution." Veilcor closed his eyes briefly. "They sense weakness. They sense distraction," the strategist said. "Human commerce has already filled the gaps." Veilcor's gaze returned to the tactical feed. Human fleets flickered in and out, never glorious, never decisive, always present. War, stripped of ceremony, reduced to process. Elsewhere, Ambassador Rowan stood on a quiet balcony overlooking the planet's artificial horizon. A junior Valorian aide approached hesitantly. "Executor Veilcor requests your presence," the aide said. Rowan nodded. "I was wondering when." Inside the chamber, Veilcor did not bother with formalities. "Your species sacrifices ships freely," he said. "You bleed resources?" "We budget for it," Rowan replied. "You budget for victory." Veilcor turned sharply. "This ends when one side yields." Rowan shook his head. "This ends when one side gets bored." The words hung between them. "You are dismantling trust across the Empire," Veilcor said. Rowan met his gaze. "You built it on fear. Fear doesn't age well." A silence followed, heavy and unadorned. "Our citizens do not understand this kind of war," Veilcor admitted. Rowan softened, just slightly. "Neither did we once. That was a long time ago." Another report chimed. Another system hesitating. Another delay. Veilcor straightened. "You fight without honor." Rowan smiled, tired but sincere. "We fight to keep living our lives." As Rowan departed, Veilcor remained staring at the star map. The Empire was not collapsing. Not yet. But it was straining under a pressure it had never trained to endure. Humanity had not brought apocalypse. It had brought persistence. And persistence, Veilcor realized too late, was far harder to defeat. The emergency session convened without ceremony. No banners unfurled in the Grand Conclave. No harmonic chime announced imperial certainty. The chamber felt smaller now, its vastness swallowed by tension rather than awe. Delegates arrived late, projections flickering with interrupted transmissions from restless systems. The Empire still stood, but it no longer felt immovable. High Executive Veilcor entered last. His posture remained erect, his presence commanding, yet the sharp confidence that once bent the room around him had dulled. Time had not aged him. Circumstance had. At the center platform, Ambassador Elias Rowan waited, hands folded behind his back, expression neutral. He wore the same jacket, unadorned, slightly worn at the cuffs. The contrast was unmistakable. "This session is called under duress," Veilcor announced. "Let the record reflect exigent necessity." A murmur rippled outward. Client species watched closely, some with poorly concealed expectation. Veilcor turned to Rowan. "You have achieved disruption beyond projections." Rowan inclined his head. "That wasn't our objective." "Nevertheless," Veilcor continued, "trade networks fracture. Governors delay compliance. Peripheral systems question imperial protection." "You declared war," Rowan said gently. "Those consequences follow." Veilcor's gaze hardened. You deny intent? I deny malice, Rowan replied. We never asked for your collapse. Only room to operate. A delegate from the Sorinth collective rose, tendrils twitching. The Empire promised stability, it said. Now instability spreads. Veilcor raised a hand, silencing it. The Empire has not fallen. No, Rowan agreed. But it's tired. That word landed heavier than any accusation. Veilcor turned fully toward him. State humanity's end condition. There it was. No threats. No declarations. Just a question stripped of ceremony. Rowan stepped forward. Mutual recognition, he said. Non-interference. Open commerce without coercion. No forced annexations. No tribute. A hiss echoed from several delegates. Veilcor did not react. You seek parity. We seek predictability, Rowan replied. Parity happens naturally. You offer no concessions, Veilcor said. We offer disengagement, Rowan answered. And stability. Real stability. The kind that doesn't require fleets on every border. Silence followed, thick and fragile. A Valorian strategist whispered urgently at Veilcor's side. Rowan caught fragments: economic projections, loyalty decay, attention bleed. Numbers did not lie, even when pride demanded they should. Veilcor straightened. You believe mercy will inspire gratitude? Rowan shook his head. No. We believe exhaustion encourages honesty. A low laugh rippled through the chamber, quickly stifled. It was not mockery. It was recognition. Veilcor studied Rowan for a long moment. Why not press the advantage? He asked quietly. You could dismantle us. Rowan met his eyes. Because empires fall on their own schedules. We don't need to be underneath when it happens. The admission carried no triumph. Only caution. Veilcor turned to the assembly. The Empire will suspend expansionary operations pending review. Gasps followed. For some, it was relief. For others, disbelief. Further, Veilcor continued, voice steady but altered. We will enter negotiations recognizing the Terran Union as a sovereign equal. The chamber erupted, not in outrage, but in sound. Delegates spoke at once. Some celebrated. Others recalculated. Rowan exhaled slowly. Veilcor raised a final hand. This is not surrender. Rowan nodded. Of course not. It is adaptation, Veilcor said. Rowan smiled faintly. You're learning faster than most. The session adjourned amid unresolved tension, but the war, as it had been known, ended there, not with victory banners, but with shared fatigue. Later, as the chamber emptied, Veilcor approached Rowan privately. You never feared us. Rowan considered his answer carefully. We respected your reach, he said. Fear requires mystery. You explained yourselves too well. Veilcor's gaze drifted toward the star map, now free of active engagement markers. Your people endure conflict with alarming ease. We don't endure it, Rowan corrected. We absorb it. Then we move on. Veilcor inclined his head once, deeply. History will not be kind to this moment. Rowan shrugged. History's rarely kind to anyone. That's why we stopped trying to impress it. As Rowan departed the conclave for the final time, a courier drone drifted past, projecting a familiar format, flat text on pale background. Markets stabilize as Valorian conflict escalates. Rowan paused, read it, and smiled to himself. On Earth, factories shifted back to peacetime cycles without ceremony. Crews rotated home. News feeds updated, then moved on. Another crisis resolved, another line item closed. Across the galaxy, empires recalculated. Smaller powers took note. Not of humanity's weapons, nor its fleets, but of its refusal to treat catastrophe as destiny. The Valorian Empire survived. Changed. Watching. Humanity continued, already occupied with whatever came next. And somewhere between the stars, a quiet truth settled into the galactic consciousness. Humans did not declare war to make history. They survived it because history kept showing up uninvited, and they had learned long ago how to answer the door.